Two princesses stood together, and the stars chose sides. Leora, the elder by a year, had golden hair that shimmered like sunlight on the glass towers around them. Selene, her closest friend, had dark hair that mirrored the deep sky above. Their kingdoms were rivals, yet their bond was secret, sacred, and stronger than any decree or law. They had met by chance at a festival years ago, and from that day, the stars had become their shared world. The night was calm, the air filled with the soft hum of the floating city's energy cores. The princesses leaned against the railing, shoulders brushing, eyes scanning the heavens. Leora spoke first, her voice a soft whisper. "Do you ever wonder what's out there, Selene? Beyond the nebulae, beyond even the planets our maps can see?" Selene smiled, her gaze fixed on a distant star cluster that twinkled like scattered jewels. "Every day, I think about what it would be like if our kingdoms could forget the old rivalries and just explore. Together." Leora laughed softly. "Together, that sounds like a dream." She paused, eyes narrowing slightly at the sky. "Look at that cluster." Selene followed her gaze. A group of stars glimmered brighter than usual, arranged in a pattern neither of them had seen before. They seemed almost to move, like a ripple in a pond, forming shapes that were both familiar and strange. Leora leaned closer. "It's like a sign." Selene tilted her head. "A warning, maybe, or a guide." She hesitated. "Do you think the stars are trying to tell us something?" For a long moment, neither spoke. The city around them seemed distant, as if the stars had pulled them into another world entirely. Finally, Leora said, "We should ask Urindor." Urindor was the oldest star mapper in the galaxy, a scholar who lived in a tower of crystal at the edge of their city. He had mapped constellations unseen by ordinary people and studied the energies that flowed between stars. Few dared to approach him, for he had the reputation of speaking truths that were often hard to hear. Yet the princesses trusted him. The next morning, the two princesses disguised themselves in simple cloaks and slipped through the city gates. Floating transports hummed past them, carrying merchants, scholars, and travelers. Even in the bustle, the world seemed quiet around them, as if the stars themselves were guiding their path. They arrived at Urindor's tower, a spiral of crystal reaching high above the clouds. The walls shimmered with the reflection of sunlight and distant starlight, creating a spectrum of colors that danced across the ground. The door opened before they knocked, as if Urindor had been expecting them. Inside, the tower was lined with telescopes, star charts, and glowing maps that floated in the air. The old man himself was seated at a large desk, peering through a lens at a model of the galaxy. When he noticed the princesses, his eyes, sharp and bright despite his age, softened. "Leora, Selene," he greeted, "I wondered when you two would come." "We saw something unusual in the stars last night," Leora said, stepping forward. "A cluster, it was shining differently, forming patterns we didn't recognize. We thought you could tell us what it means." Urindor nodded slowly and gestured for them to sit. "The stars are always speaking," he said, "but only those who listen carefully can understand. What you saw is rare. These formations, they are known as the constellations of choice. They appear when the universe senses a change, when new paths must be decided." Selene's eyes widened. "Choice? What kind of choice?" "The kind that affects more than just one person or even one kingdom," Urindor said gravely. "It is a message to those with the power to shape destinies. Sometimes it shows paths of unity, other times paths of division. And sometimes both, depending on the hearts of those who follow them." Leora and Selene exchanged a glance. They understood immediately. The stars were showing them something important, something connected to their friendship and perhaps to the future of their kingdoms. "Will it affect us?" Leora asked, her voice trembling slightly. Urindor smiled faintly. "Everything you do affects the universe. The stars may guide, but they do not control. That choice is yours. And if you walk it together, you may discover wonders your kingdoms have never imagined." The princesses left the tower in thoughtful silence. The city below seemed smaller somehow, the sky above vaster. They walked through the floating streets, watching children play with luminous creatures that hovered in the air, merchants selling glowing fruits from distant planets, and scholars studying miniature models of star systems. Yet their minds were elsewhere. "Do you think we can do it?" Selene asked finally. "Follow the stars together?" Leora reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I don't know, but I want to try." Over the following days, the two met in secret, observing the stars, tracing the unusual patterns with their fingers on star charts. and speaking of possibilities that their kingdoms would never allow them to discuss openly. They discovered that the bright cluster aligned with an old map of hidden star routes, ancient paths said to lead to a place called the Galactic Archive. Legends said the archive contained knowledge from the earliest civilizations, secrets that could transform societies. "This could change everything," Leora whispered one evening, eyes shining with excitement. "If we can reach it, together we could show our kingdoms that unity is more powerful than rivalry." Selene nodded. "And the stars, they're helping us. They wouldn't guide us if it wasn't meant to be." But the princesses were not the only ones noticing the unusual stars. Advisors in both kingdoms had begun to see the phenomenon as a prophecy, each interpreting it to favor their own people. Rumors spread quickly. Leora's council spoke of destiny and leadership, while Selene's warned of danger and betrayal. The princesses realized they must be careful. The universe was watching, but so were their own people. Despite the tension, the princesses planned their secret journey. They prepared a small starship, powered by solar winds and crystal energy cores, capable of traveling the hidden routes between stars. It was sleek, light, and almost invisible among the nebulae. Supplies were packed, maps were studied, and algorithms were set to navigate the most complex parts of space. The night before their departure, they returned to their favorite balcony. The city below twinkled with lights, but the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Leora turned to Selene. "Tomorrow, we leave everything behind, our kingdoms, our duties, just for a while. Do you trust me?" "Always," Selene said firmly. The first streak of dawn brushed the floating city with pink and gold, and the princesses stood silently, feeling the gravity of their decision. It was not just a journey through space. It was a journey of trust, courage, and unity. They did not know what awaited them in the depths of the galaxy, only that together they could face it. As the sun rose fully, the stars above still shone faintly, as if bidding them farewell. The pattern in the sky was now clearer than ever, a glowing path stretching across the void. Leora reached out and touched Selene's hand. "The stars chose sides," she whispered, "but they didn't separate us." Selene smiled, a mixture of excitement and determination. "Then let's show them what we can do together." With that, the two princesses boarded their ship. The engines hummed softly, the city shrinking behind them, the nebulae welcoming them forward. The first leg of their journey would take them through floating asteroid belts and luminous energy clouds. Every twist and turn of the stars would guide them, every signal of light a hint of the wonders ahead. Hours passed in silence, punctuated only by the gentle hum of the ship and the occasional exclamation of wonder as they passed a comet that sang in low, musical tones. The princesses kept watch, pointing out patterns in the stars, discussing what they might mean, and imagining how the knowledge of the Galactic Archive could transform their worlds. As night fell on their first day of travel, Leora finally said, "I know our kingdoms might never understand why we left, but I feel like the stars themselves are encouraging us. As if the universe is giving us a chance to prove that friendship and unity are stronger than fear and rivalry." Selene nodded, her eyes reflecting the sparkling stars. "And if we succeed, maybe one day they will understand. Maybe one day everyone will see that together we can do more than we ever imagined." The ship glided through the cosmic expanse, leaving trails of soft light in its wake. Above them, the constellation of choice glimmered, guiding, testing, and encouraging. The princesses felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and hope. They had no way of knowing the challenges ahead, the riddles of the stars, or the discoveries they would make. But they knew one thing with certainty: they would face it together. And as the first part of their journey drew to a close, the stars continued to shine, whispering ancient truths and silent encouragements to two brave hearts who had chosen unity over division, curiosity over fear, and friendship over rivalry. The galaxy waited, full of secrets, wonders, and paths yet to be discovered, and the adventure of the two princesses had only just begun. The princesses' ship glided silently through the endless blackness of space. Nebulae stretched like oceans of color around them, glowing pink, purple, and turquoise. The stars above twinkled as if they were alive, whispering secrets and guidance. Leora and Selene worked together, navigating the hidden paths the stars had revealed. Though the journey was quiet, it was not lonely. Each glance, each word, each shared laugh reminded them that they were not just explorers, they were partners in something greater than themselves. Hours passed, and they entered a dense asteroid belt. Rocks of all sizes floated lazily, illuminated by the distant light of a dying sun. The ship's sensors beeped softly, mapping safe passages. Leora guided the ship carefully, her hands steady on the controls, while Selene read the star map projected in holographic light before her. According to the constellation alignment, we need to pass through the heart of asteroids, Selene said, pointing to a cluster that resembled a glowing heart. If we take the wrong path, we could get lost for days, Leora nodded. Then we follow the stars. They've never misled us before, she smiled. Ready? Selene grinned. Always. Together they steered the ship through the moving obstacles. Rocks glinted like diamonds, shifting in unpredictable patterns, but their combined attention and trust in the stars allowed them to glide through without incident. As they emerged on the other side, the princesses laughed, relief and excitement bubbling over. We did it, Leora exclaimed, leaning back in her seat. That was incredible, Selene nodded, her dark eyes sparkling. It felt like the stars were cheering us on. Their journey continued, taking them past fields of floating crystals that sang when touched by the solar winds, through clouds of glowing dust that painted the ship in shifting colors, and over planets with skies of liquid light. Every new sight inspired awe and curiosity. The galaxy was alive with beauty and mystery, far more than their kingdoms had ever imagined. One evening, as they drifted near a giant, ringed planet, Selene noticed something unusual. Leora, look at that light pattern. She pointed toward a series of bright beams stretching across the rings. It looks like a message. Leora adjusted the ship's sensors. You might be right. The pattern matches the ancient symbols from the star maps Urindor showed us. She traced the symbols with her finger. It says, Unity reveals paths unseen, trust guides the way. Selene smiled, her heart lifting. The stars are speaking directly to us now. They're encouraging us. They spent the night studying the patterns and mapping the hidden routes, discovering new star paths that no ordinary traveler could see. These paths shimmered faintly, visible only to those who truly believed in the guidance of the stars. Every moment strengthened their friendship and their trust in the journey. The next morning, the ship approached a glowing nebula known as the Mist of Memories. Legends told that those who entered the mist would see visions of the past, memories from the galaxy's earliest civilizations. Leora and Selene hesitated at the edge, the glowing mist swirling invitingly. Do you want to see? Leora asked. Selene nodded, taking a deep breath. Together! As they sailed into the mist, the air around the ship seemed to shimmer and hum. Colors swirled, forming shapes and scenes. The princesses saw great cities floating on energy currents, beings made entirely of light, and civilizations working in harmony with the stars. They saw discoveries, inventions, and ways life had thrived when beings chose cooperation over conflict. It's beautiful, Leora whispered. Look at how everything works together. The stars, the planets, the people, it's like a dance. Selene's eyes glistened. And it's proof. Proof that unity can bring wonders beyond imagination. This is why we're on this journey. This is what we need to show our kingdoms. The visions faded slowly, leaving the princesses in quiet awe. For hours, they sat in silence, contemplating the lessons of the mist. Then Leora spoke. We have to remember everything we've seen, every detail, every color, every motion. It's all knowledge our people could use, Selene nodded, and it belongs to everyone, not just one kingdom. Their journey continued for several more days. They encountered planets with skies that glowed in endless colors, forests of crystals that hummed softly, and lakes of liquid light that reflected the stars above perfectly. Every sight reminded them why the journey mattered, not just for them, but for the future of their worlds. One evening, as the ship drifted near a small, uncharted planet, they discovered signs of life. Tiny creatures with wings made of light flitted above the surface, leaving trails that formed patterns like constellations. The princesses watched in wonder, careful not to disturb them. They're communicating, Selene said softly. Look at the patterns they make in the sky. It's like they're telling a story, Leora nodded. And the story seems to be welcome travelers. Learn, observe, and share what you discover. The encounter reminded the princesses that the universe was full of life, wisdom, and stories waiting to be understood. It also strengthened their belief that the stars had guided them here for a reason. But as their journey unfolded, the pressures from their kingdoms began to reach them. Messages arrived through encrypted channels, Advisors, ministers, and even monarchs expressed worry, curiosity, and impatience. Some saw the journey as reckless, others saw it as promising. The princesses realized that the choices they made could not be reversed and that they needed to remain united. One evening, Leora said, "We have to be careful. Our kingdoms are watching. If they see us as divided, it could undo everything." Selene placed a hand on her shoulder. "We won't let that happen. The stars chose us together, and together we will continue, no matter what anyone says." Their journey brought them to a vast expanse of glowing meteor showers. The light from each rock painted trails across space, forming an ever-changing map. Following the stars' guidance, they navigated through without mishap, their skills and trust in each other growing stronger with each challenge. After days of travel, they approached a mysterious system of planets surrounded by rings of radiant energy. The star maps hinted that this was near the location of the Galactic Archive, the place they sought. Their excitement was palpable, yet they remained cautious. The archive, according to legend, was protected by puzzles, energy currents, and challenges that tested wisdom, trust, and unity. "This is it," Leora whispered, eyes fixed on the nearest planet. "The archive must be here. We've come so far together." Selene nodded, her expression resolute. "And together we can solve anything." Before attempting to land, they studied the patterns of the rings, which shimmered like glass and reacted to their approach. They realized the planet responded to coordinated actions, meaning both princesses had to work in unison to unlock its secrets. For hours, they tested their ideas, adjusting positions, energy inputs, and movement sequences. Each attempt brought new insights, and slowly the planet responded. Lights shifted, gates of energy opened, and pathways formed, glowing with welcoming brilliance. "It's working," Leora exclaimed. "We're really doing it," Selene laughed, her excitement echoing in the cockpit. "The stars guided us perfectly. We just had to trust them and each other." As they landed on the planet, the air shimmered with energy. The surface beneath them was smooth and luminous, reflecting the stars above. They stepped out, feeling the hum of the planet beneath their feet. Every step, every sound, every color reminded them of the wonders of the galaxy and the importance of their mission. "This place, it's more than we imagined," Leora said. "The archive isn't just knowledge. It's a reminder of what we can achieve when we work together." Selene looked up at the stars, which shone even brighter here. "And it's proof that the stars chose wisely. Together, we can inspire our kingdoms and maybe even the whole galaxy." As the princesses explored the glowing terrain, mapping symbols, recording energy patterns, and observing phenomena beyond description, they realized that their journey had only just begun. The Galactic Archive held secrets beyond imagination, but it also taught the most important lesson of all. Friendship, trust, and unity are the most powerful forces in the universe. The night fell on the luminous planet, and the princesses sat side by side, gazing at the sky above. The stars shimmered, forming the same pattern that had guided them from the beginning. Leora turned to Selene and smiled. "The stars chose sides, but they didn't separate us." Selene squeezed her hand. "And as long as we stay together, nothing can stop us. The universe is waiting, and so are the stories we'll share." The galaxy stretched endlessly around them, full of wonders, mysteries, and opportunities. And in that moment, the two princesses knew one simple truth. Their bond could shape destinies, and the stars would always shine for those who trusted each other. The journey had grown more incredible than either had imagined. And though challenges awaited in the days to come, the path forward was clear: to explore, to learn, and to bring the wisdom of the stars back to the kingdoms that needed it most. Together, Leora and Selene would face whatever the universe had in store, their friendship as luminous and unbreakable as the stars themselves. The two princesses stood at the edge of the glowing plains of the mysterious planet, gazing at the enormous structure that floated ahead. It was the Galactic Archive, a massive crystalline formation that seemed alive, pulsing gently with colors that shifted in harmony with the stars above. Streams of light connected the archive to the surrounding sky, forming constellations and symbols that Leora and Selene recognized from the star maps Urindor had shown them. "This is it," Selene whispered, her voice full of awe. "We're really here." Leora nodded, her hand brushing against the ship's console. "I can feel it. The archive isn't just a place, it's alive. It's aware of us." The surface beneath their feet vibrated lightly, almost like a heartbeat. As they stepped forward, the glowing patterns on the ground began to shift and rearrange themselves. The princesses realized that the planet was not only welcoming them, it was testing them. Every step required observation, thought, and cooperation. "The archive is showing us a path," Leora said, "but we have to follow it together. We can't go alone." Selene reached for her friend's hand, and they moved in unison, carefully tracing the luminous patterns. The ground pulsed beneath them, shifting in response to their movements. Occasionally, the patterns glowed brighter when they worked in perfect harmony and dimmed when their attention wavered. Hours passed as they navigated the glowing pathways. The archive was full of riddles and puzzles that required logic, patience, and trust. Some sections had floating platforms that moved only when both princesses pressed corresponding energy pads simultaneously. Others required them to rotate light crystals until their beams aligned with distant star patterns. "This is incredible," Selene said as they adjusted a cluster of prisms to match the stars. "It's like the archive is teaching us, not just testing us." Leora smiled, her eyes reflecting the shimmering light. "And it's teaching us the most important lesson of all, cooperation. Alone, we couldn't solve any of this." They reached a chamber filled with floating orbs, each containing holographic images of planets, civilizations, and star systems. Some showed civilizations thriving through unity and peace, while others showed worlds where fear and division had caused stagnation. The images shifted rapidly, and the princesses realized that each orb represented a choice, paths that civilizations had taken based on the decisions of those in power. "These are histories," Selene said softly. "All the worlds, all the choices they made." Leora examined the orbs more closely. "And the stars are guiding us to the ones that show the power of unity. This is exactly what we need to learn and to bring back to our kingdoms." The chamber hummed, and a new set of orbs appeared, smaller but brighter. They contained symbols the princesses had seen only in ancient star maps, paths that led to innovations, peace treaties, and discoveries that had shaped entire galaxies. Each orb glowed more brightly when the princesses touched it together, showing that only collaboration could unlock the archive's deepest knowledge. "This is amazing," Leora said. "We can see what's possible when beings choose to work together. Look at all the advancements, the cities, the technology. None of it happened alone," Selene nodded. "And it proves that even in a galaxy full of differences, cooperation creates wonders. This is what our kingdoms need to see." As they continued through the archive, they encountered a massive chamber with a giant map of the galaxy floating in the center. Lines of light connected every star, planet, and civilization. Some lines were bright, indicating thriving networks of cooperation. Others were faint, showing worlds that had lost their way due to isolation or mistrust. "The archive is showing us the consequences of choices," Selene said, stepping closer to the map. "Every action, every decision matters." Leora touched one of the bright lines, and it expanded to reveal details about a civilization that had once been divided by fear but reunited through collaboration. They had shared resources, knowledge, and discoveries, creating a society that inspired neighboring planets. "The lesson is clear," Leora said. "Unity doesn't just help one world, it spreads across the galaxy." The map shifted suddenly, revealing a new pathway that led to the archive's core. A beam of light extended toward them, forming a staircase of energy that floated in midair. The princesses understood instinctively. They had to reach the core together to unlock the archive's full wisdom. As they ascended the staircase, they encountered the final challenge, a series of floating symbols that rotated and shifted in a complex dance. The symbols responded only when both princesses moved in perfect coordination, matching the rhythm of the light. Each correct movement caused a section of the staircase to stabilize, while a mistake caused the pathway to wobble. Leora and Selene synchronized their breathing, counting in unison, and carefully moved through the intricate sequence. Step by step, symbol by symbol, they climbed higher. The light around them shimmered and hummed, acknowledging their precision and teamwork. Finally, they reached the core. A massive crystal pulsed at the center, radiating light that seemed to contain the knowledge of countless civilizations. When they touched it together, a wave of understanding washed over them. They saw visions of worlds where unity had brought prosperity, where friendship had bridged differences, and where beings of all kinds had worked together to explore the galaxy's wonders. The archive spoke, not with words but with visions and feelings. It showed the princesses the potential of their actions, the impact of sharing this knowledge with their kingdoms, the possibilities for peace, exploration, and understanding. It revealed that their bond, their trust in each other, was the key to unlocking this potential. "The stars were right," Leora whispered, tears in her eyes. "We're meant to do this together." Selene squeezed her hand. "And together we can show everyone what's possible. The stars chose us not to separate, but to unite." The archive then revealed a final message, written in beams of light that stretched toward the sky. "Unity is the force that bridges worlds. Those who rise together shape destinies. Those who divide will fade into the darkness." The princesses stood in silence, absorbing the meaning. They understood that their journey was more than an adventure. It was a mission. A mission to inspire their kingdoms, to show that friendship and collaboration could create wonders beyond imagination. They left the core and descended the staircase, carrying the knowledge and visions with them. The archive pulsed softly, as if acknowledging their success, then gradually returned to its serene state. Leora and Selene knew they had been changed forever. They were no longer just princesses. They were ambassadors of unity, chosen by the stars to bring hope and wisdom to their people. As they prepared to leave the planet, the constellations above shifted, forming patterns that mirrored their journey. The stars seemed to shine brighter as if celebrating their achievement. Leora looked at Selene and smiled. "The archive was incredible," she said. "But the real test begins when we return home. Our kingdoms need to see this. They need to understand what we've learned." Selene nodded. "And they will if we stay together and present it wisely. The knowledge isn't ours to keep, it's for everyone." Their journey back through the nebulae was filled with quiet excitement. They shared their observations, discussed the lessons they had learned, and planned how to communicate the wisdom of the archive to their people. They laughed, imagining the reactions of the advisors, and imagined the possibilities for a future where their kingdoms could cooperate instead of compete. One evening, as they passed a field of luminous floating crystals, Leora looked up at the stars and whispered, "The stars chose sides, but they didn't separate us. They guided us to this place, to this moment, to each other." Selene rested her head on Leora's shoulder. "And as long as we trust each other, the universe will guide us further. We've seen what's possible. Now it's our turn to make it real." The ship continued its journey, carrying the princesses toward their kingdoms. The stars above twinkled like distant eyes, keeping watch, offering guidance, and reminding them of the unity they had achieved. Every light, every constellation, every pattern was a reminder that cooperation, trust, and friendship were stronger than rivalry, fear, or separation. As they neared familiar star routes, they felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. Their kingdoms would not understand immediately, and some advisors might resist the changes they suggested. But the princesses were confident. They had faced the stars, solved the puzzles of the archive, and witnessed the true power of unity. They knew that if they stood together, they could inspire their people to follow. The final leg of the journey before they returned home passed through the Sea of Comets, where streams of icy comets raced past the ship in breathtaking patterns. Leora and Selene navigated with care, marveling at the beauty of the cosmic dance. It was a reminder that the universe was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and that every discovery was amplified when shared. When the first light of their homeworld appeared on the horizon, the princesses felt a surge of hope. They had been chosen by the stars for this journey, and now it was time to share what they had learned. The Galactic Archive had taught them about unity, collaboration, and the infinite possibilities of working together. As they descended toward their kingdoms, Leora turned to Selene. "Are you ready?" Selene nodded, her eyes bright. "Always together." And so, the two princesses prepared to step back into their world, carrying with them the wisdom of the stars, the knowledge of countless civilizations, and the unshakable bond that would guide their kingdoms toward a brighter future. The journey to the Galactic Archive had tested them, inspired them, and transformed them, and the greatest adventure was only just beginning. The starship descended slowly toward the floating cities of their kingdoms. Below, the glass towers shimmered in the soft light of dawn, reflecting the first rays of the sun. Leora and Selene had traveled far, beyond anything their ancestors could imagine. They had seen the mysteries of the galaxy, solved the puzzles of the Galactic Archive, and understood truths about unity and friendship that could change the course of their worlds forever. Yet as they approached their kingdoms, the princesses felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Advisors would question them. Monarchs would demand explanations. Some would resist their ideas, clinging to old rivalries. But the princesses had learned from the stars and the archive that courage, cooperation, and trust were the greatest forces of all. Selene adjusted the controls, guiding the ship gently over the city of Eloria. "It's strange," she said softly. "After everything we've seen, this city feels smaller, simpler, but it's still our home, and it needs what we've learned." Leora nodded. "We can change things. We can show them that unity brings more than rivalry ever could." They landed on a terrace near the Crystal Palace, where sunlight danced across the glass surfaces. Courtiers and advisors had already gathered, drawn by the unusual glow of their ship and the rumors of their journey. Whispers passed among the crowd as the princesses stepped out, their expressions calm but determined. Leora spoke first, addressing the gathered officials. "We have returned not just with stories, but with knowledge that can benefit both our kingdoms and the galaxy beyond. We have learned from the stars and from civilizations that came before us, and what we bring is a message of unity, cooperation, and possibility." Some advisors murmured in surprise. Others exchanged skeptical glances. A few were visibly curious. Selene stepped forward, her voice steady and warm. "The Galactic Archive has shown us what happens when beings work together instead of apart. Cooperation allows for discoveries, innovation, and peace. We want to share this knowledge so that our people can thrive together." For a moment, the court was silent. Then one elder advisor spoke, his voice tinged with doubt. "Princesses, your journey may have been enlightening for you, but how can we trust that this knowledge is practical? Our kingdoms have thrived for centuries through tradition and independence." Leora and Selene exchanged a glance. Then Selene replied gently, "Independence is valuable, but it does not mean isolation. We have seen civilizations that flourished by sharing ideas, resources, and experiences. The knowledge we bring is not just about science or technology, it is about understanding and connection." The advisor hesitated, considering her words. Leora continued, "We ask you to look not at our words alone, but at the evidence we bring. The archive contains records of countless worlds, some that prospered through unity and some that faltered through division. We wish to apply these lessons here, to build bridges instead of walls." Slowly, the murmurs of the crowd shifted. Curiosity replaced skepticism in many faces. The elders and scholars moved closer, eager to see the data, holographic projections, and diagrams the princesses had brought from the Galactic Archive. As the projections unfolded, showing energy networks, planetary cooperation, and the beauty of civilizations thriving through collaboration, awe spread across the assembly. "This is remarkable," one advisor said. "If this is truly possible, it could transform not just our kingdom, but the entire region." Encouraged by the response, Leora and Selene demonstrated the ways their kingdoms could work together, starting with shared resources for education, exploration, and research. They outlined plans for joint scientific projects, cultural exchanges, and interplanetary missions inspired by the knowledge they had gained. Every suggestion emphasized collaboration and mutual benefit. The monarchs, initially hesitant, observed quietly. They had always respected the wisdom of their daughters, but the evidence from the Galactic Archive made it impossible to dismiss them. Slowly, they began to see the potential. Unity was no longer an abstract idea. It was a practical, tangible path to prosperity and advancement. Days turned into weeks as the princesses worked tirelessly to implement their vision. Delegations from both kingdoms collaborated on projects, sharing knowledge and resources. Schools were established to teach the principles they had learned from the archive: cooperation, trust, and the importance of exploring beyond one's own world. The people of the kingdoms, inspired by the princesses, courage and determination, began to embrace the new approach. Markets and trade flourished between previously rival cities, artists and scholars collaborated, and communities discovered new ways to solve problems together. Leora and Selene watched with pride as the seeds of unity began to grow. But the greatest challenge came when they proposed a joint mission to explore neighboring star systems, a project that required both kingdoms to pool their knowledge and resources. Some ministers argued it was too ambitious, too risky, or unnecessary. Yet the princesses remained steadfast. "We have seen what lies beyond," Selene said at the council meeting. "We have touched the archive's wisdom and we know what is possible. If we do not reach for the stars together, we limit not only ourselves but the future of our children and their children." Leora added, "This mission is more than exploration. It is a symbol of what cooperation can achieve. Let us demonstrate to our people and to the galaxy that unity brings greater strength than rivalry ever could." Gradually, the opposition softened, persuaded by the clear evidence, the princess's conviction, and the enthusiasm of the citizens. Plans were approved and teams were assembled, representing both kingdoms. Ships were designed for shared research, cultural exchange, and peaceful exploration. The project became a beacon of hope for the entire region, attracting interest from other civilizations inspired by the princess's vision. Throughout the process, Leora and Selene remained side by side, guiding, teaching, and leading by example. Their friendship, tested and strengthened by the stars, became a model for everyone around them. People saw that trust and collaboration were possible even between former rivals, and that working together could create wonders. As the first joint exploration mission prepared for launch, the princesses stood on the balcony of the Crystal Palace, gazing at the stars. The familiar constellations above twinkled with quiet approval, and the cluster that had guided them from the beginning shimmered brighter than ever. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Leora asked softly, her hand resting on Selene's shoulder. "From secret meetings under the stars to leading our kingdoms into a new era," Selene smiled. "It feels like a dream, but it's real, and it's just the beginning." The first ships lifted off, engines glowing softly as they passed through the clouds and into space. Children waved from the terraces, scholars recorded the event, and the citizens cheered. For the first time, both kingdoms celebrated together, united by hope, curiosity, and the promise of discovery. The princesses watched the fleet vanish into the distance, their hearts swelling with pride. "We did it," Leora whispered. Selene nodded, eyes bright. "Yes, together." In the following months, the joint exploration missions revealed incredible discoveries. Planets rich with resources, civilizations thriving in harmony, and phenomena that challenged everything humanity thought it knew. Every discovery reinforced the lessons of the Galactic Archive. Cooperation, trust, and friendship were the keys to progress. Word of the princesses, achievements spread across the galaxy. Other kingdoms and civilizations began to adopt similar approaches, forming alliances based on shared knowledge and mutual respect. Leora and Selene became ambassadors not only for their kingdoms, but for the ideals of unity and collaboration. Back on their homeworld, life transformed. Floating cities shared energy resources, education programs flourished, and cultural festivals celebrated not only local traditions, but also the achievements of neighboring kingdoms. Citizens felt a sense of belonging to something larger, connected by the bonds of friendship and shared purpose. The princesses remained a constant presence, guiding initiatives, mentoring young explorers, and reminding everyone of the lessons they had learned from the stars. Leora often said, "The universe is vast, but we are never alone when we stand together." Selene added, "And the stars will always guide us as long as we trust each other and follow their wisdom." Even as new challenges arose, the foundation of unity the princesses had built held strong. Differences were respected, ideas were shared, and problems were solved through cooperation rather than conflict. The kingdoms thrived like never before, and the galaxy began to see humanity in a new light, not as a people divided by fear, but as a species capable of creativity, compassion, and wisdom. Years passed, and the story of the two princesses became legend. Children grew up hearing of Leora and Selene, of the journey to the Galactic Archive, and of the lessons of the stars. The tale inspired countless young explorers, scientists, and leaders to believe in the power of friendship, trust, and unity. One evening, many years later, the princesses stood once more on the balcony of the Crystal Palace. The night sky was alive with the familiar constellations, and the cluster of stars that had guided them so long ago shone brightly. Leora took Selene's hand. "The stars chose sides," Leora said softly, "but they didn't separate us. They guided us here to this moment, to each other, and to everything we've built together." Selene smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And as long as we remain together, there's no limit to what we can achieve. The universe is full of possibilities, and we've only just begun." The stars above shimmered as if in agreement. a silent testament to the journey of two brave hearts who had dared to trust, explore, and unite. And the people of their kingdoms, inspired by the wisdom and courage of Leora and Selene, looked to the heavens with hope, knowing that even in the vastness of the galaxy, friendship, cooperation, and trust could light the way. The galaxy continued to expand, full of wonders, discoveries, and endless possibilities. And in every corner where humans traveled, the story of the two princesses who stood together, and the stars that chose sides, remained a shining example of what could be achieved when unity, courage, and friendship guided the way. The princesses had fulfilled the vision of the stars, showing that even in a universe of infinite challenges, hearts united in trust and friendship could shape destinies, inspire civilizations, and illuminate the path for generations to come. And so, under the same constellations that had guided them from the beginning, Leora and Selene gazed at the heavens, ready for whatever adventures the universe had yet to offer. Two princesses stood together, and the stars chose sides,